It's a Mental Health Chat Monday, the new and improved version, honey. On this series, we sit down with a brand new guest every week to discuss their journey with mental health and mental wellness. Because here on Mental Health Chat Monday, our motto is turning mental illness into mental wellness. Now, I am your host, DDare Bionic. Thank you all for being here. If you want to know more about me, my links are all down below. But I am not who we're talking about today. Today, we are here with a phenomenally talented, booked, blessed, and busy actor and a good friend of mine. Abe Shaw is in the house tonight. How are you, Abe?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I am actually thriving right now.
I love that.
I feel good. I'm in this healing era where I feel like I've healed enough and now I'm ready to heal other people. So I'm let's do it. Let's actually talk about it. Yeah.
There's a lot of power in that too.
Yeah, listen, I'm a Capricorn. Don't talk to me about power. Listen, you know I love power. We live for power. Introduce yourself to the people. Let everybody know who you are, what you do, how we know each other, how we met. I don't even really remember how we met. I know it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a few years. I'm Abe. I'm an artist, actor, content creator, music artist. And just a lover of friends. You know, I have been really focused on the healing part. I'm in my journey now for healing, and that has affected the music and everything that I've been doing creatively. Mm-hmm. To be more open to try different things and really just push myself fully. I've been in therapy almost a full year now, and that's been a big step for me because that's always been a block. I've always been an advocate for it, but to now actually follow the words that I've given other people is ooh.
I'm honestly in the same, a very similar boat. I advocate. Y'all will see it throughout this whole entire series. I advocate for therapy and medication if needed, and I have never seen a therapist. Shocking. Very shocking. Well, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but mental health check. That's how we always start these episodes. Where are you? How is 2023 treating you so far? How do you see the rest of the year going for you? Where you are right now at this vantage point?
Yeah. So the beginning was tough because the goals that I had in mind, I didn't exactly hit the way I wanted to.
For 2022?
Or going into 2023, for that transitional period. I wanted to, be settled in a new location, and start, blossoming and growing in that form. But life happens and things don't always go the way you want to. And then that was extremely frustrating. And so that transitional period of being back here has been tough. However, I'm still taking advantage of being here and finding the things that I can still benefit from being here.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing well. I've taken for the situation. Of course, I still have those goals in mind and I'm not giving up on those. I'm still aiming toward those. But, I'm content with where I am because I'm still working towards something and still, benefiting from being here too.
Yeah. Amazing. Excellent. I have to ask, where the album?
Yeah. Oh, that's been a slow period. Listen. Okay.
I only ask because if y'all don't know him from his content that he creates online, knowing you on a personal level is incredible, but seeing the content that you make and the music that I know is going to come from you, I've heard you sing live, I've heard you rap, I just know that it is going to be, so as a fan and as a friend, I'm asking, but also where but I also understand it's a very long process and expensive sometimes.
Yes. So we're about a little bit over halfway done. So we would have been eons ahead. I would have had my goal last year. So that was another thing I didn't get. I was supposed to have it done and I wanted to release it on my birthday. But when I got cast in Rent and everything, I thought we could do some things remote. I got to that Airbnb and oh my God, that setup was awful. I mean, you could literally hear through the walls somebody washing dishes or whatever. It was no. This ain't gonna work. So I had to hold off, and so now that I'm back, I'd say that's one part I'm like benefiting from being here. I can actually be in studio with the producer and engineer I'm working with, and really take the time to flush out these songs. It's gonna be only 6 songs, so
that's fine.
I will say I'm really excited about it because the music I'm really excited.
As a musician, I feel the excitement coming off of you, and I just music is such a beautiful outlet and such a powerful point, like a powerful therapy tool, even though it's not like really therapy, but writing is
and the release of because I'll make demos at home with the structure of a song, and sometimes I won't even finish it fully, but I'll come in, and we work something, and it turns into something even beyond what I was even, I get even more excited, and I'm learning, I've always been a music nerd. I've always learned so much regarding music business and whatnot, but actually doing it myself now, I'm it's a weird place. There's a lot I don't know, but I'm learning a lot, and I'm excited. And the music that's coming for the first portion, it's going to be focused on a lot of the healing period of things, and so I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited for it too. I cannot wait. I know it is going to be phenomenal. So I just had to ask for the fans because we need to know. So talking about healing and moving forward kind of with the story of Mental Health Chat Monday, have you ever been diagnosed with a mental illness or seen a doctor and got a clinical professional diagnosis, if you are comfortable sharing?
Yeah, sure. So I haven't gotten a clinical diagnosis. When in therapy, they're very aware of my level of anxiety and stress and things that I have. But I know I've had that since I was 10.
Yeah.
But to be able to, find healthy habits of, touching on that, I think that's really benefited me in this past year since going to therapy. So,
and how has this year of therapy? How has it affected the way you address relationships and how you go about your daily life? What has shifted?
Yeah, so I'm really, I was self-aware in ways, but now I'm really self-aware of a lot of things. But even more so, it's created me analyzing even people in my life and how I approach them, because I have a better understanding where they're coming from, or understanding why they do what they do.
Yeah.
And repeat what again?
Just give me a not a roundabout, but an idea of how you walked around life and existence before therapy.
Yeah.
And then how therapy has affected the way you approach your existence after being, starting this journey of healing. Because I know being in the beginning stages of healing is the hardest part. It is fucking scary. You really don't know what's gonna happen. You know it's gonna be good for you, but you don't know from point A to point B how you're gonna be. So how has this intermittent early phase of healing affected you?
Yeah, it's really... Yeah, I'm just becoming way more self-aware of things I do. I catch myself a lot. Actually, last year was the first time where I felt I actually had a panic attack. I had and it was midsummer. A lot happened in that time. It was family loss. It was the first time I got COVID. It was a number of things happened all at once. But I felt so overwhelmed, and I had never felt that at that state, but I was aware of what was happening at the same time, and I was just trying to think of the patterns and the exercises or things that could help me catch my breath and breathe. I think that's another thing too. I breathe more. I breathe way more.
Oh,
and I'm aware of when physically in my body, if I'm holding on to something way more. And I'm really think that's affecting even for performance and even recording something. Because my breath is way deeper in the body and I'm way more connected to it rather than like thinking it's a muscle through situation as far as like instead of letting it be like a flowing thing.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Well, not even thought of it like that, but I never even thought of the fact that like it does really feel like you're holding your breath when you're going through these fits of self-loathing and for me emptiness and like that deep barrel of depression and anxiety and like all that stuff in your head that is like telling you whatever it is telling you. I never really thought about the fact that it really does, because as a queer person, one of the things that there's this movie, it's called Love, Simon. A lot of people don't like it, whatever. I thought it was beautiful, but there's a monologue that Jennifer Garner, Simon's mother's character, has with him, and she goes, "You get to exhale now, Simon." And when I watched that in the movie, I was like, holy shit. It really is like holding your breath. And the same thing is true for being mentally ill or having a panic attack or anything. It feels like you can't breathe. Yeah. So I love that you bring that up about like being more connected to your breath, because it makes you feel more connected physically too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And even with it and being in therapy, in the first few months, there were a lot of things happened early on where like taking risk and like touching on things that I've avoided for a long time that have happened to me.
Yes.
And touching on those things, that a lot of things happen very quickly. And so in my head, everybody's different. Their process and journey is different. But I was like freaking out thinking like, am I moving? Like what's happening?
Wait. I need a back pedal. Hold on.
Yeah. And that was scary. But once those things started happening, it was like, I was just cognizant that that's just what my journey is, and I was just respectful that, hey, these are things that we've thought about for years, but now that we're like actually touching on it and not dodging it after a while, it's like a lot of, probably there were some things that I had done before and without realizing it that was helping with my journey of healing and like really addressing those things. And so once we were in therapy and touching all those things, it was like, okay. But a lot has happened and a lot of changes have happened. And I've just had way more gratitude for a number of things just in this past year. Yeah.
Talk to me about how, I'm totally deviating from my script now. Yeah. Talk to me about how being a creative helps your mental health and how... Well, we'll start with that. We'll start with how it helps your mental health.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to the next part of the question I have for you. But talk to me about that.
Yeah. So when the pandemic started, it was when I came back, at first I didn't know what I was gonna do. I really thought I was gonna go crazy and just being in the house and just not doing anything, not going anywhere. But that's where I found my most creative content that I've ever created. Yep. Like, I was just throwing things to the wall and just doing it, and it felt, oh my God, it felt so good. Like, to feel like it was productive, it became my work. It became like, I've always been passionate about this stuff, but like I actually had the time and I made it a priority, and it's like I didn't have no other choice, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I ain't got nowhere else to go.
Right.
So I might as well do it.
Yeah, so that it benefited, it helped me in that regard. And so now, it's a balance of trying to figure things out, but still being creative has helped me stay even holding myself accountable for things I'll say I want to do. And so it benefits in multiple ways.
I felt similarly during the pandemic too. The first month of the pandemic, I wanted to legitimately surgically remove my skin. I was like, I can't be in this physical body anymore. I can't be in this place anymore. I need to... I get like cabin fever when I don't get to... And it was never about being around people. It was never about being like out and going places. It was just like, I need to be outside of this room, of these four, well, not this room, because I was not in this room during the pandemic, but it just was so constricting.
Yes.
And my mental health was not good during the pandemic, and then like something just completely switched that second month. I was like, oh wait, I can do whatever I want. I can't go outside, but I can go for a walk if I want to. I can go for a run. I was never gonna go for a run, but I went for many walks. And you know, I wrote, I want to say 60% of my album during the pandemic. Whatever wasn't done, I did during lockdown. And then immediately, once the lockdown was over, I could just get in the studio and boom, record, boom, record, boom, record, and get it out. And I started working more on, I was like so against TikTok at the beginning of everything.
I feel you. I didn't join till November of 2020.
I didn't join till 2021.
Fair enough.
Maybe it was later 2020, but like I joined when the fad was over. Like it's still a thing, but I was like, oh, fine, I'm at home. What else I got to do? But like even with YouTube, since 2020, I've posted more consistently on YouTube than I have, and I've had my channel for like 10 years. Like. I just was like, I'm at home. I got nothing better to do. I was buying full sets of makeup and skincare and doing all this stuff, which I still like doing, and I will eventually bring back to my channel once I build my finances back up. But there was something about being locked away for 3 months with nothing to do that was just like, oh, okay, I get to be creative. I get to write and be with myself, and it was like, I don't know. It was beautiful. It was great. And I feel bad about that sometimes because, like, I came out of the pandemic, I feel like a better person. Whereas I know a lot of people came out of the pandemic feeling really dejected and hurt and broken and fully 100% valid. But for me, it was like a time where I, like, went into my little cocoon and I came out a moth. I didn't come out a butterfly. I came out a moth. I just have to be honest about it.
Yeah, I had the privilege of a lot of things during the pandemic, with opportunities that came from from being creative. You know, the connections with people like I probably wouldn't have had because those people were busy doing whatever, but now they had to sit down just like us. But yeah, like when you said something that made me think about. When I first started like being really creative with stuff, it first started with just like musical theater content, right? And so
yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, so I was just starting with that and those ideas, and then like it was like every day something would come out like, oh, you know what, this would work with this, like connecting these different things. So I got to use, different parts of passions that I have, and TikTok, as much as the love and hate relationship that I have with social media as a whole, yes. But TikTok especially, it was like a training ground for me to do a number of things creatively that has gotten me to this point. Like stuff I do now on stage and stuff that I'm doing musically and stuff that I'm doing otherwise. Yeah. But, it really helped me sharpen tools and stuff and sit down and like focus on those things. So, TikTok for me did for me with makeup what it did for you with music. I've always been passionate about makeup, and I've always enjoyed Halloween and dressing up and doing all that stuff. But as I get older and explore my gender expression more and kind of understand that I don't really give a good golly gosh darn about gender and what I can wear and what I don't wear and all this stuff, TikTok really was like, okay, well, I can wear makeup and put it on here and see what happens. Like, it's fine. But on the flip side of that question, how do you feel creativity has maybe hindered your mental health or affected your mental health negatively? Yeah, I'd say that with that comes regret too, because there's really, whether I like to admit it or not, there's an emotional connection to just about anything I put out. Yep. As silly as it may be, or as serious as it may be, and if it's not in my head feeling like if it's really it's sensitive, and so I become regretful that I even did it, or upset if it doesn't go the way I wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
then,
if something doesn't turn out the right way.
Yeah, that, or even who it gets to, or reception of social media, particularly.
Yeah.
Not creating something, putting something out there, and it's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. Whether that hurts a lot sometimes, and I get upset about it, because it's like I put so much time and energy into this. I really care about this, and it's in my head all the time. It's like I'm thinking about stuff all the time, and sometimes it can be a lot to like that overload.
Yeah,
it like really hits a lot, and so. I'd say now, which is in the healing phase, because it has always been that I'm just like, no, we just gotta go.
Go. Yeah,
Taking the time to be like, okay, let's just stop. I literally have to stop myself and do what you're saying. If I go outside, if I just sit outside, or if I go and do a walk thing, or if I just watch something else, get off of social media, watch something else. Those practices are what helps. But yeah, it's hard. It really is hard because, and it's hard if I see someone else who I know is creative. Perhaps they've given up or quit, or perchance they don't have the ability to express the way I've been able to.
Yeah.
And there can be sometimes a feeling of guilt regarding that, and the feeling of, like, what impact am I making with what I have? And so sometimes I wonder, like, oh, am I doing enough? Am I doing this? And so I have a lot of thoughts in my head that run through, and so I have to, like, I literally have to stop myself and take a break, or try to give myself more grace.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah.
And that part is like
I feel like as artists, especially as like artists, millennial, content creator, theater artist, musician, we have this like base level of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God, emotion that is inherently connected. Because I feel like artists we create from an emotional place, whether we think it is or not. You can write a song that's just like, I just want this song to be fun, and then you listen back to it and it's like, damn, shit. I was just trying to make a fun song. Like, I'm not trying. I don't want to feel any emotions when I listen to this.
Really?
And like, song on my album Audible, I wrote the song 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
6 years ago, and maybe even more than that ago. And I listened to that song, and I'm like, yeah, this is the fun. It's like sexual and da 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 da. And then I listen to it, and I'm like, why is there activism in this? Oh, I wrote this as okay, all right, yep. I guess so. Like you unintentionally write these things into everything you do because it's so connected to who you are as a person.
And sometimes that becomes hard to enjoy too. Like what you're saying, what you're touching on, is like it's hard for me to even enjoy like a project or a thing without having to think about this or that. Or like,
well, what is it going to do for the people?
Yeah. No,
what's
exactly.
it going to do for the people?
Yes. It's like, oh, they're going to hear that. That's what turn it off right here.
I wrote this line in there, and it's specifically for this. Yep. Yep. Or like, I put out an album last year, Statuesque Comments, streamed everywhere.
Absolutely, stream it.
And it, like you do, I write from a very emotional place. Especially with that album, I wrote a lot of those songs from a really emotional place. And like, the songs that I more emotionally connect with aren't the songs that necessarily are like the peaking or like the ones that everybody's listening to. And I'm like, well, why don't you like this song I wrote about being lonely? Are you not lonely? Do you not relate to me?
Real.
It's so, but then there's also the other side of it where it's like, I want people to listen to or see the things that I create and to just enjoy them. But I mean, everything has to, like I said, I'm in my healing through art era, and everything I do is going to have that like little bit of magic sprinkled onto it. That's like, you're going to get something from this. Yeah. You don't know it yet, but you're going to. I don't know it yet, but you're going to.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because like even with working on this project, you know, saying it's gonna be a healing period and things. Mm-hmm. I know that there are songs that I have that I want to set up that aren't going to be focused on that. It's gonna be more so what you were talking about, the fun thing, and I know that's probably gonna still happen. But I'm also thinking in my head, I was just like, you have to earn getting there. And I don't know if that's healthy or not. But I'm like, you have to earn getting to that point of where you can make those songs
where it's just about nothing.
Yeah, or just like not as I don't know if serious is the word to use, but like not as heavy. Heavy. No, and I'm just like, shouldn't it be a combination of both? We should do that, but like, nah, we gotta focus on doing that. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I feel that. Being a writer, because I know you write all your own music. Mm-hmm. Being a writer, specifically when it comes to music, and like not. There are songs that I listen to by other artists that to the masses have no meaning or have very little meaning or are just like fun, vibey songs. But I hear it and I'm like, man, this is, like I feel this deep in my soul and I'm twerking at Lollapalooza right now. Like, why am I crying? Like, I call my music crying in the club bops. Because, like, I write fun music that you can dance to, that you can vibe to. But if you listen a little too hard to them lyrics, we all going to be crying in the club. We all going to be crying in the club. So, to deviate a little bit away from being a creative, as Black people, mental health is not very... How should I say? This ain't a PC podcast, but also still want to be kind to my people. But we don't handle mental health well. Yeah. Has there been a point in your life where you felt, I don't want to say mistreated, but felt unsupported by the Black community with your mental health or with your healing, with the process going to therapy, anything like that?
Yes, but those things happen very early on. Be transparent without going too deep into it. When I was a kid, I did not feel like I had that support. It was my dad. He's passed away since, but he said a lot of things that affected me as a kid. That probably developed the outcome of where I'm at, and those things I have to break. And therapy, and my mom, she studied and now is a counselor. But even with that, it's difficult because the community you're around. I grew up in church, and I grew up in a very... I grew up in a church, too. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so how they look at mental health is like as if you're crazy, you don't, and your faith in Jesus isn't as strong. Yeah. But it was constantly. I always, was taught that. I always thought there was something weird about that, but I didn't really get to unpack any of that until college. But yeah, that was quite a number of my childhood. And now, but I'm at the period now for myself where it's just like, I really could care less if there are people who think that I'm cuckoo or whatever they want to, portray somebody who's going to therapy or looking at mental health. It's getting talked about more. And I think that even though my mom is a counselor, there are things that she didn't even know or understand. And so getting to unpack those things, and sometimes we have conversations about it, and some things, she's not gonna understand. If she or whoever doesn't understand, that's fine. I'm at the point where it's just like, this is for me and my healing, and I look at my nephew who's the next generation, and like
I love seeing your videos with your nephew, by the way.
Yeah, I love that kid with all my heart, and I really, he crosses my mind a lot too with certain things that even I do, just being his uncle. I think about for like my healing and like things that I could potentially, without even purposely trying to, passing a cycle on to him, and I'm just, I hold myself accountable a lot. That I have to practice grace too with that journey, but yeah, I definitely have. That's pretty much been my entire life. But I've also had a supportive village of people in the community too who have been there for me. And so when I was in Chicago, at the first early stages, there was a lot of loneliness. I didn't really know a lot of people, and I hadn't really built a chemistry with the cast yet because there's a lot of time I wasn't there. I was working.
Yeah.
But when people who came and saw the show, the majority were black, and that for my spirit, that really did something for me. And like some people surprised me, and some people I knew were coming, but it was just like, man, it felt really good to like somebody have come and support like what I love and what I'm doing, and anybody who comes, obviously, who I love, like my friends who are not black, and like I love y'all too. But it's different. It's different.
It's different, and
it's different when that support is there and that village is there, and it really soothed a lot of time where I did feel lonely, and building the chemistry with this beautiful cast that I was with, this beautiful cast of color, and it really was, I don't know if I should say therapeutic, but it was. But it was like soothing. It was therapeutic for me, and that really helped with me along my journey too. Like I've grown a lot just from those few months there.
Yeah. It really is something different when you're with a cast of black people, but when the love comes from black people, we just love very different.
Yeah.
And if you're black, you know. If you're black, you know. The show that we're doing this summer is an all black cast, and we had our first reading on Monday, and it was just like, I haven't had that experience with a show since I did piano lesson back in 8 years ago or so, something like that.
That's before I knew
before we knew each other, a very long time ago. And it was an all black cast, director's black, assistant director. The only white people involved were the people who ran the company. And it was electric. And I think that's why I'm kind of talking about, not being supported in the family. I think that's why I'm working so hard to end the stigma in the black community, because we love each other so much. And we always talk about breaking generational curses and like all this other stuff, especially if you grew up in the church. It's like all of these things that we talk about wanting to do, but fail to do because we don't understand.
Yeah. And
oh, man, I want us all to just take that moment to be like, to just understand it. It's a chemical imbalance. It's something that happens. It happens to everybody. It's not just white people shit. It is everybody shit.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
I was fortunate to come up with a mom who's I talk about it all the time, very supportive and very understanding, and was like, I got you. But I think about my nieces and my nephews too, and how they grow up and what they see and what they learn and what they learn from me. And it's weird being that age where you are imparting something onto the next generation.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not right.
It's wild.
This is not okay.
It's interesting because like in spirit too, I think about the little version of me, that the younger me, and that love that like he should have gotten, and a lot. Like I think about him a lot, and I think that helps too, because like I was afraid to do that, and like I'm just like, that's scary, to think about everything that happened to me as a kid, the things I kind of just like threw to the side, but that's
what we do,
right? And that's apparent strength and just pushing through it.
Yeah.
Ooh, but really facing it head on and like being transparent about that, and when emotions come, I just let it happen, and like that's been a thing too, like how much I have had moments where I have cried, or like released, it's like I haven't had that happen since I was like a little kid. You know, like a lot of times I was crying out of, the pain of something happening. And I was taught, just as any black boy,
good Christian.
Yes, don't cry and tough it out. But I was never that kid, and I'd had a lot of emotions and a lot of heart, and this past year I've really just allowed myself to do it, and the grace part is just the different.
Yeah,
this shit is like, man.
It's hard to be nice to yourself when you've been mean to yourself for so long.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to feel that hurt and that anguish, and that kid who was like, yo, we had it rough.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I just, my trauma didn't start until my teenage years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my trauma is associated with my dad as well. And I had a great support in my mom and my siblings, and I was able to be emotional, but I am kind of naturally a closed off person, I think. As I've gotten older, I've opened myself up a lot more and just have been more free with my love and who I talk to and how I give it and who I give it to. I'm still very selective with who I give my love to, but I am open to all people within reason.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I was growing up, I just became very closed off because I didn't want to be a burden on anybody. I feel like I was made to feel like a burden, not by my mom and not by my siblings, by my dad, whatever. But that is something that I am still struggling with. Like I reach out when I need to, and I have a very lovely partner who is always in my corner. And still my mom and my siblings and very, very close friends. But it still sometimes is hard to be like, hey, I'm not okay. I am at a point where, like, if somebody asks me how I'm doing and I'm not doing okay, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm good. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I don't need to go no more deep into it than that. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And if I get that just okay, don't push it. You got the okay, all right? Jeez.
Respect the boundary.
Yeah, respect the boundary.
So I'm curious regarding. So when you wrote My Infinite Sadness, with that,
my crowning achievement.
Yeah, which I mean, beautiful work. I still remember that to this day. Watching it. What was that process for you for even putting that out there for people to take in, and
talk about I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit.
Yeah.
No, it was honestly that process was easier than I expected it to be. So I will go more in depth about this on another episode about like My Infinite Sadness as a piece. But I was asked to write a short 10-minute piece by Shannon Geyer, Shannon, and it was the beginning and end. Yeah, the beginning and almost end. So the scene before the very last scene of My Infinite Sadness, the catharsis scene at the end, was not there. It was the beginning and end, and it was one whole scene. And I was like, there's something more here. I sent it to Shannon, and she loved it, but I was like, I don't know, this isn't done. I said, there's something here that feels incomplete. I was like, I think I need to turn this into a full piece. And I wrote on it for a while. I wrote on it for about 1.5, 2 years, I think. And I talked about this a little bit on the last episode. I wrote most of those scenes at times when I was feeling what I talk about in the scene. So that vertigo monologue I wrote while I was on the bus experiencing vertigo. I wrote the dark matter scene. I was feeling,
I still remember that.
That scene in and of itself is probably the most me of the whole show. Everything else, the whole show, like, it's semi autobiographical, but that scene is me. It is me when I was a kid reading the dictionary. It is me at 30 years old still being obsessed with space. And it's me in the times when I feel like I don't matter. And I wrote that end monologue was what I wrote first. Came from a place when I felt like I didn't matter. And I felt like I was just completely worthless and useless. And after I wrote that monologue and I wrote that whole scene, I was like, shit. Okay. Like, I have expressed how I feel. I have addressed this monster that lives in my head. I've personified it. I've given it a name. And now I am the reason. It wouldn't be here if I wasn't here. And so the finishing it, I don't know if I ever told you this. It initially ended with the pendulum scene. The scene at the end of Act 1.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And I sent it to a couple of different people, and I was like, "Hey, just read this. Tell me how you think it feel. How you feel. Beautiful piece. Cannot end it that way." And I was like, "Why?" I asked every single person. I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "It just is so sad. It's so tragic. And if it's your story, it doesn't end that way. Like, you can't. If it's gonna be autobiographical, you gotta end it the way your story is still going." And I was like, but all stories don't end in a good way. I had this whole point in my head where I wanted to be like, but what if it didn't end good? But it did. My story is continuing to go. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll add another scene and we'll see how it goes. And I kept writing. And it, at the end, when it was finished, and I heard it read out loud for the first time, reading it on paper myself was fine. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is beautiful. Hearing it out loud was like, oh, no. It was like, I cannot find the words to describe how it felt hearing it out loud for the first time. Mm. And putting the whole thing together, seeing it all come together was like, I think in that moment, opening night, I knew that my healing was going well. I knew, I said this on the last episode too, I didn't really feel truly happy until like I was somewhere around 25. Childhood, yes, absolutely, 100% happy. Teenage years, no. Early 20s, no. 25, and my infinite sadness and everything that did for me was like, oh, this is what healing looks like. This is what helping looks like. And it was it. That was it. That piece spawned this. That's why I do this video audio podcast thing, because I have like a chill right now. I want everybody to experience the healing and that I felt by telling that story.
Yeah, I think about that Dark Matter scene quite a bit. Actually, it still stays with me. No, I truly, I have.
Thank you.
I have learned even really because like giving it a name, what you were saying, like I have learning to do that and also look at it as okay. Talking to it, literally like, okay, these thoughts are like,
yeah, those intrusive thoughts are like,
and being like, okay, let's have a conversation real quick about what you just said.
Wait a minute, hold up.
Let's talk about that. And I talk to myself a lot, and like I talk to myself before a lot, but like now it's the conversation of okay, hold on, let's reel back for a second and like look at this for a second, and like I respect that you're here and that you're going to be here.
Yeah. You cool?
Yeah, like look, you gonna be around.
Yeah.
You staying for free, no rent paid. Okay,
rent free. I set the room up for you. You good?
Yeah, but like we gonna have to understand. Like,
I run this.
Yeah, and and sometimes that would be winning sometimes with like the fact that the battle and fighting for that. Yeah, the hat and when you say you found it at 25. Yeah. Like I wish. I wish.
We're the same age, aren't we?
29.
Oh yeah, I just turned 30. So
yeah. With like a few months. But yeah, I wish at 25 I was even here right now, but like to have this like journey happening like right before my 30s, I think it's really impactful for me too. You know, I look at my 30s, it's like, okay, I'm excited about my 30s. Honestly, I'm excited, and as a kid, like I even picked on it. Like Frank, I didn't even know if I was gonna make it to 30. You're like I think that's right. That's a feeling like
I didn't think I was gonna make it past 16.
Yeah. I had this because like where I grew up, I had this ongoing fear that I felt like because I didn't have a bed, I slept on a couch, and I had a fear that like the neighborhood we were in that a stray bullet was gonna fly through and like. And yeah,
that's a whole different level of fear too.
Yeah,
having to fear the outside and the inside. It's like, when do you ever feel safe?
Right, right, and I think about that too because I was like 10 was like the first time I had like suicidal thoughts, and but to also have that fear of that, and fear being the only thing that stopped me, not a religion, not anything else. It was fear.
Yeah,
and. To think about how both of those things happen at once is like, oh, like I'm thinking about unlocking myself, but also, I also don't want to die.
I don't want to die.
Like, what's the, you know?
I want to die, but I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Screams.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and like, you know, it's no surprise that creativity is like the passion of mine because like it always was an outlet. Like just watching Channel 9, you know, as a kid and like watching stuff like that helped. I created ideas in my head, or I lived there instead. Yeah. Like, you know, the coping mechanisms, you know, that are developed from that, or films that just bring me joy. Music to this day, what it just brings out for me when I'm feeling a certain way, it's just amazing. But also, I think that it can easily be a hurtful thing too, because you may try to escape too much with music.
Yes. And we don't talk about the escapism of it all.
Yeah.
Like, you can use those things to cope and like help, but don't dive too deep into it. Well, I don't want to say don't dive too deep into them, but I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes you kind of like. So for me, it happened at 25 because 24, I did something like 13 shows in 13 months. Like I had done.
Woo.
Yeah. And that's not me like tooting my own horn or being like, yes. Like, no, I was never not working because I didn't want to be with myself.
Yeah.
And I took a break at the end of October, and once I didn't do a show for a full month, and it was just me and my thoughts and working, I was like, wow, I hate myself. This is not I have worked too hard to be this person again. And I was like, I gotta go. I was feeling that cabin fever feeling. I was like, I gotta go somewhere. We wasn't even in a pandemic, and I was like, I gotta go. I just have to. So I booked a trip. I went away for a week, and I had this incredibly beautiful spiritual experience in Albuquerque, and came back a completely different person. And truly, since day one of that trip, since I touched down in Albuquerque, I have been a completely different person. That's not to say that everybody has to take an unintentional spirit journey, but for me and the person that I am and the way I hold my energy and I carry myself, that was the thing where that time allowed me to be like, okay, let's reassess. Who are you? What do you want? How do you want to do it? And I think I actually finished, I wrote, if I remember correctly, I wrote the catharsis, the very last piece, that spoken word piece at the end of My Infinite Sadness. If I remember correctly, I wrote that in Albuquerque, and that was the last piece of the show. I think I don't remember. That was a long time ago, but yeah,
wow, it
was like, yeah, it was beautiful. It really was. And so since then, later that year, I met my partner. Like I was such a more open person than I had ever been before. And I still am, I think. I think I'm pretty open person.
I think so. Especially the last album I heard it.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun process.
Yeah, I love that. It just left me what I was about to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It's not your fault at all. I can't remember exactly, but I haven't had like a spiritual like anything like that happen, but I don't know if I should even say I'm looking for it, but I am. Like I want something like that, but I think even just the experience of Chicago and just like getting to just be out there and do it.
Yeah.
So like I was discovering parts with myself. You know, I really was enjoying a lot of my time out there. It was beautiful to get to explore different places, and there's just so much out here. Like I've been very fortunate of things I've gotten to see already, but just think about how there's so much I haven't even seen yet, and to actually be at this place where I'm excited about that. It's like there's a lot of wins. There's a lot of wins. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part of taking those first steps on that journey of healing is like once you kind of like finally open your eyes and you see that there's so much world around you. I feel like in St. Louis too, there's a I don't want to say like a comfort, but there's a standing still. Like there's just a stay in place quality about St. Louis where it's like, I'm good.
Real.
And that's fine. You know, for some people this is where they want to be and this is all they want to be, and they are beautiful human beings and are magnificent for being here. But for a lot of people like yourself, like myself, like my partner, like a lot of the people, like my best friend who moved away, there's too much of us that needs to see other things.
Yeah.
And I want people to realize that it's okay to need to see other things and be other places and breathe other air and take in the world. There's so much to learn and so much to see and so much to experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, to even unpack that, because, so like growing up, I was just, I kind of felt like, looking back at myself, felt like I was like this, my brain a lot of the time just felt like a blank canvas and people were just telling me how to think, how to feel. And so I developed this, I don't know if codependency is the right term or not, but like feeling like, oh, I don't know what to do. I need to ask this person what my opinion should be or thought should be instead of me just figure it out on my own. And there are times, especially in the past year, but especially pandemic time, where I was just like, man, I really grew up being told everything, and even if I tried to do it my own way, I was told, nope, get back in line, get it back in place, and do it this way. And I just did it without even realizing how it impacted me long term. And, you know, experiences like, it wasn't a great time in my life. Like, I was not happy. But in my 20s, even when I got to study abroad and like see different cultures and things like that like, you know, like started like the development of being like, okay, hold on.
Wait a minute. There might be something to this.
Yeah, and even like somehow I was taught like, wait, okay, so yeah, I've always like felt, but I've always neglected it. And I feel like maybe it's just like, quote unquote, a sin of some sort, right? Yeah. But letting go of religion and letting go of a lot of things. Look, I'm trying not to, you know.
The second again, very fortunate growing up. I was very fortunate to live in the house that I lived in and be the person that I am. Before I even knew I was queer, before I even let go of religion, my mom encouraged me to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. Once I was a teenager, she was like, if you want to go to church with me, you can. If you don't want to go to church with me, you don't have to. That's your choice. And I was like, oh, I get to choose? I grew up with a lot of choices.
Yeah.
When my dad wasn't in the household. I grew up with a lot of choices. And listen, I don't shade religion or religious people. I love that for you. But for me, I'm good. I'll stick with my spiritual my connection to energy and to everything around me. And that feels, when you realize that everything is energy and energy is everything, there's nothing else you can, I mean, like, that connection just, it just makes sense. It makes so much more sense in me, and for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like that connection with certain things has helped me along the way. Mm-hmm. Like, truly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I only have a couple. Well, I didn't really even answer really many questions. We went totally off, and I love it. And that's the whole point of this. I love hearing other people's stories. I was told in a past life, not in a past life, but I was told earlier in life that I should have been a therapist. And like, no, that's not me. That's not my gig. I heal through art.
There you go.
And a lot of people don't think that YouTube or podcasts or social media is art, but it is.
It absolutely is.
It is a creative outlet. It is a platform. It is a way to heal people and to antagonize people, because you know some people be tripping on the internet.
Oh,
but
a lot of people tripping.
Yes, they do.
I don't know if they get called out for it sometimes too.
Yeah, I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. And, you know, I'm not always praying for people's downfall.
No. Like, you know,
but there's some people where I'm
all
like,
for accountability.
I'm
all for that.
Yeah,
I've always been for that.
Oh yes. So on Mental Health Chat Monday, like I said in the intro, our motto is turning mental illness into mental wellness. Mm. What is your definition of mental wellness? What does that look like for you? What does it sound like? How does it feel?
Yeah, so the full definition is still something I think I'm still developing in this journey. Mm-hmm. But I think knowing that I have a mental illness and still being able to find the joys in it and exist with it, mm-hmm. I think it's something in between that. It's like the joy in finding in the coexisting, still finding joy in the coexisting, but also being aware of like where I'm at, depending on the day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm still developing it fully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's something in there.
Yeah. And that's valid.
Yeah.
We love that.
What's your definition?
My definition of mental wellness is, it's very similar to what you said. It's the coexistence, but it also is personally being able to talk about it and using my voice as a healing tool for me. And on the grand scheme of things, it's understanding, acknowledging, and accepting the mental illness and coexisting with it while still keeping your foot on his neck. Not letting it win, not letting it always be. I wrote that line in the show for a reason. I always thought you were the most interesting thing. You're the most interesting thing about me. This is the person talking to their mental illness and realizing that your mental illness is not the most interesting thing about you. Mm-hmm. You are the most interesting thing about you. That just comes with the package.
Yeah.
Last thing, will you leave us with a word of advice for allies of the mentally ill community? How can they be in our corner? How can they support us? What should they or shouldn't they say? What piece of advice could you give for someone who is not necessarily living with a mental illness? Even though I think we all have a little bit of it.
Yeah, right. I think that the presence, listening, and your self-awareness will their self-awareness will assist with that, with being a good listener and also being present. Because if by chance you don't, relate or in that situation, your presence and support for someone who is going through that is greatly important. My village is everything. People who support me, I don't care how few, small they are. It's mighty. And there are times, like I said, I was lonely. They felt lonely when I was in a new place. But that village and that support, it was just like what I needed, you know. So yeah, I'd say if you don't have a mental illness, by chance you don't have it, which I'm like,
ain't nobody getting scot free in 2023.
Right. Just you being self-aware of, but also understanding that empathy is something you have to learn.
That is true.
And grow, and your presence in listening. There's a lot of strength in that. I have to sometimes tell my family's members and stuff like, I'm not asking for advice. I'm not asking for you to fix the problem. You can't fix the problem. I just need you here. You know? And so I'll look at that. Yeah. Continue to be there, be support, and also be transparent. It's a lot. Sometimes I'll be held accountable. Sometimes it's stuff I do too.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's very true.
Yeah, I'd say just continue building. When you build your self-awareness, that's when you're able to communicate better with someone else. So, that's what I say.
Abe, thank you so much for being here and for this incredible conversation. This is what I live for. These conversations and this knowledge and light and beauty that is going to be spread out to the world. So thank you so much for your presence, for your talent, for your voice, and for your story. Do you have anything you want to plug to the people? Any upcoming projects, social media, anything like that you want to plug?
Sure. So the music is coming. I'm working on it. Abe Shaw. If you want to follow me on social media, it's at Abe T Shaw on Instagram and TikTok. YouTube is still a work in progress, but if you want to follow that too.
Look, YouTube is hard.
Yeah,
it's
really
hard to get yourself to sit down and actually film. I like longer form content. Personally, it's easier for me to do YouTube than it is to do like anything else. Except for Instagram, because I like taking pictures of myself. And I wish Instagram, go back to being a picture app, please. I like taking pictures of myself. But YouTube is difficult. It's very hard.
But if by chance you want to follow YouTube, it's Abraham Shaw. And yeah, the music is coming, and thank you for asking me, because this has been great, and I love what you're doing. And I've always, you know this, that I've just admired you as an artist, love that you do. You've been someone I've reached out to for advice and things too. So I love what you're doing, and please continue.
I appreciate you. Thank you. That door is always open. Always. Always open. And I would love to have you back when you have your answer for what mental wellness means to you in a future season.
Absolutely. Okay. I look forward to it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank y'all so much for listening and tuning in. Again, my name is DDare Bionic. If you want to find me, my links are all down below in the description box. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Mental Health Chat Monday. I will see you next week. Bye.